Welcome to this week's Forex forecast for the week ending February 10th, 2023. My name is Justin Bennett with Daily Price Action, and in today's forecast, we are going to talk about the dollar, the DXY, the Euro USD, the pound, the dollar versus the yen, and also the dollar versus the Canadian dollar. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And first thing you'll notice is that late last week, we did have a reversal here from the dollar. So looking at the DXY daily time frame, you can see that ever since this high back here in November, the market has been moving within this descending channel. All right, so we've got several touches off of support down here. And you can see where recently the market came pretty close to this level. It's more obvious on the weekly time frame, but we did get that bounce and that reclaim back above 101.50. Okay, so this was a key level here recently. You can see where the DXY bounced from this area and consolidated from it for a couple of weeks here. Right at 101.50, we got the close below, the close back above on Thursday, and then Friday retested that level exactly. We got the rally, okay, over 1% for the DXY, which is a considerable move for the dollar index. Now, for the week ahead, what's going to be key here for the dollar is to hold above 102.60 on a daily closing basis, because you can see here that this level at 102.60 served as resistance back here. We got the close above on Friday, okay, which was also a weekly close, which means that 102.60 becomes support for the new week. Now, 103.50 is going to be a big test for dollar bulls, given the fact that this is a confluence of resistance now based on the top of this equidistant channel. We've also got this horizontal level here at 103.50. Okay, so this is going to be resistance. So we could see a little bit of consolidation here between 102.60 and 103.50 for the DXY as we enter the new week. But a close above this area would confirm a breakout and potentially send the DXY back here toward 105.60. Okay, which would be the next key resistance level if we do get that confirmed breakout above 103.50. Now, alternatively, if we were to get a close right back below 102.60, then it could confirm that we're just looking at more range-bound price action here for the DXY that we've seen here for the past few weeks. But just keep in mind that this is a very significant area for the DXY, and you can see on the weekly time frame just how bullish last week's candle looks. And if we go to the monthly time frame, you'll notice this is something I mentioned to members recently, but you can see that going all the way back to late 2016, this is a massive area for the DXY right around 101. Okay, so you can see that we've got several highs going back to late 2016 on the monthly time frame, and also this one here. Okay, so it's no surprise to see the DXY bouncing from this area. I always thought that this would be a significant area for the dollar index, and sure enough, we are getting that bounce. But once again, for the week ahead, that 103.50 level is going to be a very strong resistance level for dollar bulls, but a close above would confirm that breakout. So next up, let's talk about the Euro USD, which obviously if we're seeing a rally from the DXY, we're looking at the Euro USD pulling back here, and that's exactly what we saw. Now, one thing I mentioned to members in Discord last week on Thursday, okay, as soon as this candle closed, right here on Thursday, we got the rally up here, but then the market closed, the Euro closed right back below these highs, okay, right around 109.25. And this should have served as support for the Euro USD. However, instead we got the close right back below it, okay? Sure enough, Friday retested that area as new resistance, and we got the sell-off. So this right here is something that I warned members about in Discord on Thursday, and it played out really well for anyone who took that short, although it was a little bit iffy just because we do have so many support levels on the way down, including this one down here around 107.80 and also these previous range highs around 107. However, with that said, if we assume that this trend line down here, okay, is significant, so we've got this level off of these lows, and even if we draw it from the most conservative placement, so from that closing price on the daily time frame, and extend it to this low right back here, okay, the very low of this candle, the Euro USD technically still broke down. Okay, it still closed the week below that level. So that could be significant going into the new week. In fact, I think it is. However, I personally think that if you draw it like this to include this, bullish candle back here, this is probably a little more accurate. Okay, so for the week ahead, I think that we could see a bounce from this area right here around 107.80, but this region up around 108.50 or so, this is going to be resistance now for the Euro USD. So you've got to bear that in mind. Now, it doesn't mean that the short-term uptrend is completely over. Okay, we could just get a rotation lower from the Euro USD, but I think with this kind of price action and this type of breakdown, you've got to assume that we're at least coming down here to test the 107 area before we get any significant bounce. And next up, we have the pound here, which is looking rather bearish. This is something I talked about last week. So what I mentioned is this trend line, which I've also discussed in the last few videos. You can see off of this closing price from back here on September 26th. Okay, so from the daily close right there, we've got this low, we've got this one, and the market tried to hold above it intraday here. This is something that I also mentioned in the members only video last week. You can see on the 1 hour time frame how the pound did try to hold above this. Okay, so we got the retest right here on the hourly, and we got the bounce. However, then the market closed below, and that level became resistance right here. Okay, so going forward, you know, for the pound, obviously not looking great, but at the same time, you've got to understand too that this right here, all of this through here for the past couple of months has really just been a range bound market. Okay, so yes, the pound closed below this trend line right here, which is something I mentioned in last week's video. I said if it closed below 1.224, okay, that would trigger the breakdown, which we got on Thursday. Sure enough, retest right here and sell off. Okay, so, you know, again, that could have been a nice short entry up here, but for the time being, the pound is coming into some very significant support this week down here right around 1.19. All right, so bear that in mind as well, that a break of this trend line right here does not have to mean that the uptrend is over and that we're just going to see the pound do this. Okay, this could just be a resumption of the sideways range that we've seen for the pound for the past few months. Okay, so we could just get something like this here over the next few weeks. But for the immediate future for the pound, this level right here around 1.211, okay, you can see this little pivot right here. This is going to be resistance for the pound. We could get a spike above that level on Monday, but ultimately I think this holds as resistance. And at this point, I do think that a retest down here, right around 1.19, is in the cards for the pound. So the dollar yen had a breakout as well last week. No surprise there, given the fact that the dollar did strengthen significantly on Friday, and the pair did close above 130.60. Okay, that 130.60 to 130.70 area that I mentioned in the past few videos, you can see that back here was support. Okay, resistance through here, and now we have the close above. Now, the one thing about this and all of the other moves that we saw on Friday is you have to understand too that sometimes Friday moves are not all that reliable because of the low liquidity in the market. Okay, there's not a lot of volume on Fridays typically because a lot of traders pack up early for the weekend. So you've got to keep that in mind as well with these kind of moves. Okay, now I think that the next 24 hours in the week ahead is going to tell us a lot here about these breakouts. Do we get an immediate reversal? Okay, an aggressive reversal lower to make moves like this on Friday, a fake out, or do we get some sideways action here? Some healthy consolidation and then the move higher. Okay, I think that's going to tell us a lot as far as where the dollar yen and other pairs are going to go over the next couple of weeks. Now, if this level holds around 130.60, okay, and especially this level down here, we could get a spike down here into this area to retest it on Monday or Tuesday. But if this area through here holds for the dollar yen, so really between 129.60 and 130.60, if this area holds as support on a daily closing basis going forward, I think that we are looking at potentially a move back toward 134.50. Okay, this would be the next key level for the dollar yen. Now, I've said for a long time too that the dollar yen has some incredible technicals, everything from this descending channel that broke out on Friday to these horizontal levels. I mean, you can see just how clean this is. Even 138 has been very, very reliable. Okay, all these levels have over the past couple of months. So I think we have some really clean technicals to play here. Once again, if the dollar yen can hold above 129.60 to 130.60 in the week ahead, I do think that we could get that push up toward 134.50. And then from there, potentially a pullback and some range bound price action here for the dollar yen and other pairs. And lastly, I want to talk about the dollar versus the Canadian dollar, which I've mentioned this trend line off of the July 2021 high back here several times now on the website. Okay, so we've got several highs along this trend line. We had the breakout through here, and since that time the dollar CAD has been consolidating within this triangle pattern. Okay, now the level I mentioned recently was right around 133. Okay, so this was always support here for the dollar versus the Canadian dollar, and you can see where sure enough we got the bounce right from this area. Okay, so this was our key level. And so far, we are seeing that bounce higher. Now, it's a little bit tricky to identify where exactly the pair might find some support this week, but I think you could make a case. Okay, if you draw a trend line from these recent highs through here like this, notice that this candle did not close above on the daily. Okay, so we could see a move down here into, let's say, 133.60, maybe early next week into this region. But as long as that holds, I do think that we could see that push up here from the dollar CAD toward the trend line off of that high from all the way back here in October of last year. Okay, so right now, that level, if we see it within the next week or two, we're looking at a move maybe toward like 135.60 or so for the dollar CAD. Now, the alternative to that would, of course, be if we see this pair close back below the support level down here, and especially this long-running trend line. Okay, so this right here, as long as the dollar CAD is above this area down here, you've got to assume that we are still within this consolidation pattern for the dollar CAD, which means a move back toward that resistance level around 135.60. All right, so that wraps up this week's video. And if you are not a member, be sure to check out the website. Click that Join Today button at the top, and it will have all the details on how to join us in the Discord community. It's a real-time chat community, and I'm in there every day, posting ideas and also posting a members-only video. All right, guys, so that's it. I think the big story here for the week ahead, just to kind of wrap up, is going to be the dollar. We saw the breakout last week on Friday, but the question is, was that Friday move something to rely on or not? And I think it's all going to come down to that 102.60 level that I mentioned here for the DXY, and also 103.50. All right, so I hope this video has helped. Trade well out there this week, and I will talk to you guys again next weekend.